Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Saturday speaker meeting. So we have Dr. Nicole Andreatta from the Center for Neuroskills here today, and she's going to be talking about self-care strategies during the COVID-19 pandemic and beyond. So important, during these times, and also just important always, right? So I'd like to introduce Dr. Nicole Andreatta from the Center for Neuroskills, and you can take it from here. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Hi everyone. It's sort of fun for me to get to be joining this meeting because I have a history with the San Diego Brain Injury Foundation. I used to live in San Diego, and it's kind of great to reconnect with this group and even see some familiar faces. So I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, so we're going to be reviewing self-care strategies in the context of COVID-19, but all of these things are useful at any time. But it feels like in this crisis that we have to be extra diligent and mindful and practice, things like Stacy just did in order to stay emotionally healthy and to be able to thrive, in this difficult time. So let's get started here. All right, so we're going to go over what is self-care and why do we do it? What is emotional intelligence? Oops, sorry. What is emotional intelligence and how does it relate to self-care? And some more details about that, and and then an opportunity for some question and answers. So, self-care is things and activities that we do deliberately and consciously that we know will help with our mental, emotional, and physical health. And that, they can help with lift your mood, like Stacy just mentioned, or calm, your anxiety and your fears, and help gain clarity, improve your attention, to be able to be successful at the things that you want to do. And they can be really simple things. One of my self-care examples I give is that I really like a bath. I can really go in after a tough day where my back feels really tense and come out of the bath feeling like renewed. There's little rituals like tea, drinking hot tea, or watching a funny video, so it's not necessarily complicated, but sometimes we forget to do those things and can get stuck in negative thought patterns. So self-care looks a lot like knowing what you enjoy and being aware enough, which we're going to get to practice them mindfully, to make those choices mindfully, and see how your mood changes. So, all right, so we got tons of examples, and all of these things. I wanted to say one other thing. I think it's easy to minimalize when you're feeling down. You feel like something really big has to happen to change your circumstance or your mood. It's just like you can get to feeling hopeless and not realize that, by staying hydrated, by having a big glass of water or a great night's sleep, that you can really impact your perception of what's happening in your life. So can't tell you enough about a good sleep routine. Sleep hygiene is so important in regulating your mood and your energy and your attention, your cognition. when we're sleeping and we get REM sleep, our brains are filing away everything that's happened in the day. I always think of a messy desk. At the end of the day, we have this big messy desk and everything feels kind of chaotic. And then in our sleep, we organize everything. We put things in a file that we need to do, or put things away that we don't need to attend to the next day. It's like we file at night in our sleep, and we wake up with an organized desk. And so good sleep is so important. Eating healthy, nutrition, and feeding our brains and our bodies really fuels us and helps us make good decisions in terms of self-care. Taking breaks, I think this is important for everyone, but after a brain injury, cognitive fatigue and fog really impacts your perception of, your mood and your abilities, and just optimal functioning. And so, overwhelmed, like when we're talking about multitasking and, just not having a direction, taking a 10-minute break, taking some deep breaths, just resting, really can have a positive impact. I think small breaks throughout the day really help you to get more accomplished within the whole day. Sometimes you think, well, if I take a break, I'm losing time, but really it ends up that you get more done when you allow yourself those breaks. Any form of exercise, so important for stress, for your mood, your energy, your cognition. Even moderate exercise helps your memory. Your mood, your attention, and your immune system, your resiliency. So exercising even and keeping you healthy is so important. Saying no sometimes, knowing what your boundaries are, and being comfortable if you have too much on your plate, or you're not feeling up to something, being willing to say no. Positive self-talk. Shorty was mentioned this when that sometimes he'll make a joke at the expense of himself. It sounds like he's comfortable at it, but sometimes we have to watch that, the way that we're talking about ourselves, even internally in our heads. What are we saying about our value, about our worth, about our circumstances, and then of course also what we're saying out loud to others about ourselves. It really just a shift in language and the way that we're talking either out loud or to ourselves can really make a difference. And then part of self-care is just being willing to offer help, like planting a tree. I love that, volunteer, or being willing to receive help and not being too proud or uncomfortable with accepting care and support. All right. Oh, I saw some over here underneath the umbrella too that I love: practicing forgiveness. Sometimes we don't think of that as self-care. We think about it being kind and helping someone else. But if we're angry or frustrated with something or situation or person, and we practice forgiveness, it actually really creates space for joy for us and releases a burden. So that is a way of practicing self-care. All right. So what are the benefits of practicing self-care? Better health, stronger immune system, very important during COVID, right? Like we want to have all of our immune guys ready and feeling strong to fight off that virus. We want more energy to do the things that are good for us and that we need to accomplish. there's a ripple effect. So in terms of passing along those positive emotions, when if we're practicing self-care and we have those positive emotions, then there's, you know, a ripple effect where your kindness, your positive emotions impacts the people directly in your orbit, and it just keeps going and going and going. And gosh, right now in this time, we need that more than ever. So I have fewer mistakes. I know when I'm practicing self-care, I don't, you know, lock myself out or, you know, lose my keys and, you know, forget something that is important to me. You know, it's like by slowing down and practicing self-care, I'm less likely to make errors that make my life more frustrating. And, you know, that all rolls into just improved life satisfaction and, you know, just feeling of wellness. We're not looking for, you know, real high highs, but just more of just a feeling of wellness and groundedness and feeling safe. Yeah, and we can make these choices, you know, minute to minute, and they all matter. When we, you know, we fall back, and then just like was said earlier, you can kick yourself on the butt and make a few positive choices, and you're back on track. So why don't we all, you know, we know that these are all good things, and why don't we do them regularly? Why does it seem hard? It does. It takes effort. And if we're feeling anxious, if we're feeling sad, feeling lonely, so sometimes it really does take a real concerted effort to do those things that we know are good for us. It takes awareness. Sometimes we're so busy that we don't even realize that we're kind of stuck in these negative emotions, or that our tank is low, you know, that we need some refilling. And we're going to talk about that. Like, part of this is taking the time to notice how we're feeling, and also knowing what helps us. You know, like, again, I gave my little example that I know that if I, you know, at the end of the day, if I take a bath, that would be something good for me. But there's so many different things. So kind of being aware of what self-care is for you uniquely, you know, music, something that smells good, you know, that sort of thing. It takes practice. So when you try something and you notice that it works, you know, making a commitment like, okay, like, I have this skill, like, I have the power to make these choices, and I'm going to practice, you know, doing something self-care at least once a day, and then trying to, you know, build in habits so that it does get easier over time. When you practice and you keep getting that positive reinforcement from the positive decisions that you're making and steps that you're making. And, you know, sometimes people are really motivated by wanting to be able to be their best person for others. So you know, you can't give to others what you don't have. So by practicing self-care, you can be a better, you know, community member, friend, family member. So you got to nourish to flourish. Right here, they're watering yourself so you can grow and prosper. Okay, so emotional intelligence is tied to this idea of knowing at any given time how we feel, and how to manage our emotions, and also interpret our the emotions of people around us. So, you know, how the ability to understand, use, and manage your own emotions in positive ways to relieve stress, to communicate your needs effectively, and your feelings, to offer empathy, which is so important in these times. It's sort of, when we're out in the world, it's like we all have to remember that we're living through this together, have extra patience and empathy with each other. And all of that helps overcome challenges and diffuse conflict. So there's 4 different domains of emotional intelligence. The first being self-awareness. So we've talked tuning into your emotions and how they impact your behavior. When I know when I'm feeling really, really short and I want to, sometimes I'll think to myself, what's going on with you? I'm like, oh, I'm starving. I haven't had anything to eat. I could get really, just really grumpy if I haven't had anything to eat. Or where we talked about sleep, I'm not as patient and able to deal with stress when I'm tired. So just being aware of those things when you're starting not to feel like yourself, if you're feeling short, you're feeling anxious and angry, what is contributing to that? And sometimes by just acknowledging that, it can really give you some energy and some direction on how to take care of yourself. Emotional intelligence is knowing how to regulate your emotions. So when I'm feeling dysregulated, really frustrated or sad, what do I need to be able to do? Do I need to remove myself from the situation? Do I need to go on a walk? Do I need to have a snack? Any various ways that you helped, deep. We talk a lot about breath, taking deep breaths. So whatever tools that you've learned is a part, and regulating your emotions is a part of emotional intelligence. And then there's social awareness. So it's how can you recognize in others what they might be going through to have patience? Emotional intelligence is recognizing and be able not to take everything personally. If someone else is not acting their best again, we're talking about the pandemic, like realizing that people are just sort of more short-tempered and don't have as much energy as they usually do and are feeling disconnected or stressed. So we can offer them more empathy. We can give them more grace when they're not acting their best. And then the last is, so, I think of social awareness a little bit more of something more one-on-one, and then social management, having a understanding of how our behavior affects others and how we can influence others for the better or for the worse. Like who do we want to be? What do we want our ripple effect to be? Okay. All right. So why is self-awareness particularly important during these unusual times? Emotionally intense moments are guaranteed. This, sometimes I feel like we're in a science fiction movie. It's just hard to believe. And the truth is that the world has, been through this many, many times. I had another slide, but Dr. Seal was more of the historian who went through all the different plagues. The world has been through this before. And we will make it to the other side of it, but it's intense, it's scary. There's been a lot of loss. We didn't talk about those of you on this call who might have lost someone or really have experienced COVID themselves, or might even have lingering symptoms. But those are all real things that we're all experiencing together. So by knowing how you're feeling, you will have a better control of how you're reacting to those feelings, and have a plan of how to manage them. If we're not self-aware in the moment, we might dismiss or be more likely to neglect our own needs. And then this can result, our stress can just get so high and we end up in a fight or flight response. We get really angry and lash out at someone that, the last thing we want to do. And have arguments with the people we love, or someone in the community, and that never leads to anything good. And I guess this again is one last bullet of just saying that this isn't, by practicing self-care, it's not self-indulgent, or there's nothing negative about, or selfish about making sure that you're doing the things that you need to do to take care of yourself. What are some ways, if you're saying how do I get in, connected to how I'm feeling? There's a number of different ways. One I'm sure you're all familiar with and have been encouraged is journaling. Writing your feelings down. I also like art journals. You don't necessarily have to use words, but you could have a notebook with just blank paper where you draw, how you're feeling in any given moment. Mindfulness is taking the time to sit and be quiet and be in the moment. Notice what your physical state is. I love starting at the very top of the head and sort of going down, observing it, any headaches or pain behind your eyes or your temples or your back of your neck. And do you have a heaviness in your chest, or a knot in your stomach? And then once you kind of tune into a physical symptom, you can take some deep breaths and name it. Like, I think that's, my worry about my dog who's in the, at the vet, or about somebody who's ill in your family, or about, finances. You can kind of find what the feeling is with the physical symptoms sometimes. And if you name it, if you go, oh, I'm worried about X, then you can start on, name it to tame it. Then you can start on, a solution, or talk about it with someone, and it usually helps, shrink it. And once you're able to identify what it is that's contributing to your stress and your feelings of overwhelmness or sadness. And attend to your self-talk. So if you have a negative take going about things that's hopeful, not hopeful or critical of yourself or others, changing that narrative, switching the language can really, really help with improving your self-awareness. So moving kind of along with the self-management, so it's, we become aware. Why is the management of our emotions and emotional intelligence important? So our power to make a better choice lies in the space between a stimulus and our response. So we always have that choice about how we're going to react to anything. But if we don't know you know, if we don't have the tools in order to, if we don't have the awareness of what's going to trigger us or what to do, then we're just riding blind, right? We're just shooting blanks in the dark. So we want to know what our triggers are, and then we want to have tools to respond. So it's, you know, self-managed is about being aware of and appropriately expressing emotion, and avoiding an amygdala hijack. That's for our neuroscientists. So that's that fight or flight, you know, like we don't want to just have knee-jerk reactions in life. We want to try and be aware of how we're feeling and be able to respond to things in a way that's in line with our values. So know your triggers, be able to recognize when you are triggered, and, you know, have plans about what you're going to do. You know, again, you know, is that a timeout? Is that a walk? Is that deep breathing? So use your strategies to calm your nervous system, or a bath. Keep your tank full. So make sure you're eating, make sure you're sleeping, make sure you're staying hydrated. These really, really, really seem like basic things when there's so much going on in the world. Seem like, oh, okay, fine. If I drink a glass of water and get a night's sleep, what's that going to do? Like, we're in a global crisis. But it does. It really, really, really does fuel your tank and help you make better decisions. And again, that ripple effect goes farther than we can imagine when you're able to be your best self. So, you know, some more self-management tools, you know, developing a calming strategy. I'd love to hear from you guys what, you know, some of those are for you. Focus on the things that you can control. Again, like with the pandemic, there's so much that we can't control, but, you know, what we can control is, you know, wearing our mask, practicing social distancing, washing our hands, you know, keeping your environment clean, you know. So it's like, I can't protect the whole world, but these are the things I can do to protect myself and the people directly around me. Being compassionate with yourself. I think during the pandemic, I think we've had to lower expectations a little bit about what, you know, what success looks like for our lives, or, you know, what we're supposed to be doing. Or if you are just having a bad day, being kind to yourself and being self-aware, acknowledging it, and maybe just talking about it with someone, and not being hard on yourself that you're struggling in that moment. And then lean on your network. I love that you guys all showed up. You're leaning on your network right now. You all came together on this call with your community through the San Diego Brain Injury Foundation. That shows me that you're taking steps, that you wanted information about how to keep navigating this pandemic. And so that to me is a really positive example of leaning on your network. So self-management questions. Do you have effective ways to navigate emotional triggers? So, you know, I want you guys to think about that after this call. I've given some examples. What are your things that you know when you're triggered that you can do that helps lower that fight or flight feeling, or that fight or flight feeling? What are some of the things that are in your zone of control? The things that are overwhelming you, what things can you practice? What can you do? And kind of separate them from the things that are out of your control, and focus on the things that you can. again, going back to self-care, like I can control what I put into my body as nutrition. I can make the decision about when I go to sleep. I can make the decision to get some exercise, to stretch, to get fresh air, to get outside, to call people in my social network. We can't all be together, but we can pick up the phone. We can, FaceTime or write an email, write a note. So there's definitely ways of reaching out and staying connected. And then, are you paying attention to, I want you guys to think about, after this call, what is bringing meaning and purpose into your life right now? I'm so glad we had this opening, because again, I can't say enough about the planting a tree, but like that was so meaningful. Like that gave purpose this more, in that moment, and it brought meaning to the day. And we can think about the things that, that was one person's example, but what is bringing meaning and purpose to your life right now, and write them down. And then when you're feeling disconnected, go back to your list of what is bringing meaning and purpose to your life, and figure out an action item of something to do that day related to that meaning and purpose in your life. And you can be right back on track. Again, it doesn't take a lot. It's just decision day after day on focusing our attention on those things that are meaningful and purposeful in our lives. I think we've hit a lot of these, but another thing that we didn't talk about in terms of social awareness is looking for opportunities to give recognition. That there's so much research about how one of the easiest ways to help our moods is by sharing, love, positive accolades, genuine care for others, or recognizing other people's strengths. When we're not feeling strong, we can find strength in identifying strengths in others, which is really, fascinating and something to practice when you're feeling down on yourself, and you don't feel like you can give yourself those accolades or turn that positive attention towards yourself. You could take a step by recognizing strength or something that you want to grow in yourself that you see in someone else, recognize them for that. And that's a first step towards feeling better yourself. So kind of on that same line in terms of being socially aware and ways that you can help your own mood, but also by giving to others, is practicing your listening skills. So this is a really difficult time. So you can do a lot by just being willing to listen and being a caring presence for those in your life during this time. You can catch other people doing, the right thing or something good, even in practicing self-care, and give them that recognition, and celebrate, things that are celebrate people's strengths and things that are going right. All right, so some more kind of homework for you guys, and considering, this talk and making it your own after this presentation. Consider, do you listen to others, or do you and attempt to understand what they're really saying, or are you rushing to judgment, or really wanting to respond with how you relate to their experience, but before you really consider how they're feeling, or want to come up with a solution rather than just attempt to understand how they're feeling? can you identify and name others' emotions accurately, right? Because sometimes during, yeah, when people are stressed, they could come out and they could look angry. And if you rush to judgment, you could miss it. What there actually is very sad. So, take the time, like, are you able to really see where people are, are you judging people's emotions accurately? Because that will really help with, your response. And that's the self-management and that piece of emotional intelligence is working on being able to assess others' emotions accurately. I love this one. And looking for the strengths in others. Like, are you looking for the best in people? We all kind of show up with the good and the bad, and we have a choice of what we want to focus on, and, so, what do you want to do? Do you want to focus on people's strengths, or do you want to be critical and notice, things that are disappointing you? And when we get off the call, maybe you might want to think about whose work you haven't recognized, or something that you're appreciative of in your circle, of someone around you, or your family members, your friends, and someone on this call that you want to recognize. So go slow, be patient, communicate often, be honest, transparent. I think it's so important for us all to be vulnerable right now. It's a difficult time. And if we can't be honest and we can't be vulnerable, then we can't get the support from others that we need. And be quick to give thanks, because people need some positive reinforcement right now. And it goes a long way. Gratitude, both for the person who gets to receive it and for you who benefits from giving thanks. Let me look at the time here. I think these are kind of repetitive.
We're good. We're good on time. No worries.
Okay. So let me see. Sorry. Let's go. Okay, so more homework. Are my communications frequent, clear, and open to feedback? So I guess that sometimes, one conversation isn't enough, in terms of talking with people in our lives about how we're feeling. So, be willing to, and also if you're going to share, a certain problem or what you're going through, be open to feedback or open to suggestions. Oh, this is just a reality, right? Like our neurobiology. So this is something that's actually happening in our brains. So when we're angry, the release of cortisone, these hormones that have this negative cascade all through our body. They're hard on our heart and our nervous system, and consequently our immune system. So just kind of being aware that when we experience these negative emotions, that there's this whole physical, neurobiological response. And by practicing that self-care, that we can save our bodies, our hearts, our health, by making different choices that combat those negative emotions with positive emotions. So by being curious, by we talked about listening, by being interested in others, by expressing gratitude and interest, we change our neurobiology in that minute when we just make as much as if we make a choice in anger, it has a consequence. When we make one a choice to connect, we trigger a release of dopamine in the brain, which is this great feel good flush on the brain, and it can help you feel more creative and connected and grounded, and it has, you know, a lasting effect too on your nervous system and your health. So choices we have. So we need each other now more than ever. So check in with your people, provide encouragement and support, physically distance, but don't distance socially. I think I just touched on that before, but there are a lot of ways that we can still connect, and when we're doing it now. I know that, you know, in the past, we got to gather together for these meetings and maybe have a donut or coffee and to be together, but there's still a benefit. You know, I'm glad we're doing this rather than nothing at all. So let's just do this is the final recap. Focus on things in your control versus those that are not. Engage in practices that help you feel safe and practice self-care. Try and stay in the present, maintain a proper perspective. Practice gratitude, offer help to others. One way of practicing gratitude is to write 3 good things that have happened in a day. That's a great exercise to do in the journal that we talked about. Get outside. It is proven. We need sunlight. We need fresh air. It's easy to, I mean, we're less in San Diego. I was actually just down there. You are outside more than we are up here in the Bay Area where I am, which is great. And you have the wonderful weather. So getting outside and appreciating that is really important. Stay connected to your community. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Whoa, I didn't mean to do that. Okay. One other thing that we didn't talk about is just engaging in whatever your spiritual practice is. So that can provide a lot of support during these difficult times to you. So whatever that is, and what that community brings you. And that, my friends, is my dashboard. And so now I'd love to hear from you guys again and answer any questions or, oh, okay. And what is a resilience library? So I don't know if you guys have, certain books that you reference or quotes, like things that you can go back to, even cards. Sometimes, Meredith, I have some letters and from my mother, that really remind me that I'm loved or remind me of who I am. So kind of revisiting things like that, quotes, pictures, books that you could reference, and that's what a resiliency library is. Good question. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Andreatta. That was a great presentation. I had just a comment. One of your last slides, you were saying, one of the positive things you can do is think about a time when you overcame adversity. I think that's particularly relevant for most folks in this meeting today, yes. Right? Because I think that everybody here could think of a time when they had overcome some adversity, particularly in regards to sustaining a brain injury and the rehabilitative process and things you've done during that time.
I actually wonder if you guys are more equipped being through what what you've been through, then the strength that you know that you have, that's helped you face your injuries and resume your lives. That's a really important point.
Yeah, we know true adversity, don't we?
Yeah. Well, you guys, thank you, very much
Thank you.
for having me. I really enjoyed this today. You guys gave me meaning and purpose this morning, and I'll carry it for the rest of the day and beyond. So
Well, thank you, Dr.
Awesome.
Andreatta. I did, a little round of applause for Dr. Andreatta today. Pinch hitting for Dr. Seal. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much. And
Thanks,
it
guys.
was a good presentation. And thank you so much. Thank you so
All right,
much.
guys. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Appreciate you.